I'm Audrey. I was at Google for almost a decade, recently quit. Yes! Took way too long. So now I'm freelancing, which was the best choice ever. I'm going to talk to you about a hypothetical project I ran there because I'm not sure of the legal ramifications of talking about a specific project I ran there, especially since this is going on the record. So I guess, as user experience practitioners or people close to a product team, we've probably all encountered the problem of, a product manager pitches you on an idea, or worse, you're actually already assigned to a project and you realize, oh no, the strategy, based on what I know about users and what they want and what they do, this is a train wreck already, but I have to work on it. That happens. It happens at bigger companies, perhaps like this one, or perhaps at, other places in the Valley, ones that can afford to hire user experience researchers like myself. In this hypothetical scenario, let's say that you have a lot of great ethnographic research from the past 2 years. And the product, in this case, let's say you have one that's actually been out for a year, but it's looking for a change in strategy. You've tested a bunch of these changes to the point where the design team is actually ahead of engineering. It's great, they've got some breathing space. Unfortunately, the team isn't prioritizing the right things. And okay, I could run the same study again and get the exact same results as before, but you also know, human nature isn't likely to change, and I think there's some quote saying, the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So sure, I could have, a researcher in this situation could theoretically, do more presentations, do spiffier presentations, try and get, better user videos. Or you could make the teams do your job for you instead to make them have empathy for you as well as the user. So what do? You perhaps could find some allies in the company, like the operations and support team, who see the same issues coming in and sympathize with you, and also have physically the number of bodies capable of helping with this. You could train some of them to moderate a light usability session of, say, 20 minutes, and get a leader in your organization to agree to run bi-weekly sessions at a local shopping mall. So now you have, say, a group of 10 moderators agreeing to sign up with, say, 10 engineers, meeting 10 users at a local shopping mall to do stuff in the actual real world. So what this solves is a bunch of problems. One, the support and ops people appreciate how hard it is to moderate studies, and they tell the engineers about this also. And the engineers have also gotten some light training, so they also know, of course, not to grab the participant's phone or whatnot, but they also appreciate the work that goes into these things, right? And then they see all the things about hey, people have really, really janky Android builds on their phones. Coming from Google, right, this could theoretically be a big misunderstanding because not everyone can afford the latest iPhone or, go find their friend to flash the latest build of Android onto their phone for them. Things like, hey, even if you're in a shopping mall in Silicon Valley, you might not have good reception. That was, actually, I think one of the biggest things that people could find out on a visit like this, sitting somewhere. We went to a couple, if you go to a couple places in the Valley, there are only so many shopping malls, right? But every single one of them, you can find a spot that has bad reception. So if your product depends on that, you're going to run into trouble. So all those bugs which people might be filing about offline access and trying to get that bumped, suddenly it's amazing. You have an engineer see that for himself, and it's now being worked on. Even if it's not a P0 priority #1 bug. Let's see. So you do this many times over time, so it becomes sort of an expectation, a rite of passage for anyone who joins the team to do this. And it's funny because if you're testing stuff on people's phones, that's one thing, right? Actual users' phones. So you run into those issues of different builds and whatnot. But if you have the engineers also bring the prototypes on their phones, you can get pretty similar results. And now you're actually beyond the phase of just building empathy, and you're actually getting actual usability feedback on new things going forward. But the difference is you didn't have to do much work. other than like some light coordination at the beginning. And the team as a whole has a much better understanding and consensus as to like what the real issues are with this thing and how to change it going forward. So like that is a situation that user research can be used as sort of not exactly strictly a research tool, but a way to just like get a team headed in a better direction. Another tool that people use is the design workshop, which, having seen a bunch of Post-its and things posted on the walls, I suspect you guys do here quite frequently. But I've actually seen it used, I'd say 50-50 in terms of like actually working on a specific design problem and more like setting a common strategic vision or making people feel involved for that strategic vision going forward. And again, it's sort of the same things coming into play where it's like, wow, I, as a marketing person, product management person, PR person, and now being asked to like generate ideas and think about user issues and draw mocks. Those designers' jobs are really hard. Maybe I shouldn't walk over and ask them to do a mobile version of our desktop solution in like 2 days, which happens, right? Yeah. So I guess I've seen both people at Google and now as a freelancer increasingly using the design workshop as a format to just like more build consensus and empathy. Well, the designers use it to build empathy. The higher ups just want to build the consensus and get good ideas for a great strategy. That is all I have to say. I think that may have gained you all your time back. Any questions? Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So you talked about some of the kind of existential stuff that was impacting the user testing in the shop mall, like the internet or people touching phones, stuff like that. Like, did you find any actual, application insights?
Yeah, we did, but they weren't any new ones, is the thing. So there were a lot of issues that resurfaced, and that's exactly why we didn't want to invest a lot in doing usability studies again, because it was like we had this laundry list of issues. So it was like, unless we had some sort of research that would have an additional benefit, such as getting the team out there in the real world with real users to build that empathy. Like they found those issues and they hoped to get them prioritized again, but they weren't really new. Yeah.
Did you do the traditional kind of recruiting user researchers and kind of those types of, taking them out of context? Because what I find valuable is like you went to their natural context and placed it wherever they would have naturally used that piece of software and gained empathy and understanding and also your bug list from there. Yep. Do you traditionally kind of recruit users, bring them into a usability lab, put it in front of them, ask them to go through tasks and generate, usability tasks bug list from that?
Yeah, sure. I'd say that's like the default user study.
Yeah.
Bring people to a lab and whatnot.
Yeah.
In this case, the product, had a strong local aspect to it, so your location was really important. So that, the kickers of one, not being at a shopping mall, and two, being somewhere where you had like corporate campus Wi-Fi, which is, pretty good because executives complain if it goes down. Those two, like taking people out of that really helped.
And how open were they to test it on their devices? I mean, you have to, put something on their device. I can imagine that a lot of people, it's like, what? No.
Well, so the up and downside were maybe that this was sort of a little more of an experimental product, so it was actually live in some forms. So we just had to help them find it.
Okay.
So you talked about having 10 moderators and 10 engineers pair with them going to the field. I often find it hard to, at least within the team, find moderators that you can trust to do the quality, the quality of research in the way that you expect. How do you train them or bring them on board to make sure that when they are in the field, not being with you, they will do the job as good as you expect them to do?
So one, since we had the issues already largely identified, it wasn't as critical to get like that super high quality, help. So we were a little bit more lenient in our expectations there. On the other hand, we did have like a half-day training session where we had people practice with each other, and then we had, participants come in and then they practiced on the participants, so that we knew that, primarily we wanted them comfortable with doing this. Yeah.